This is a corn binder, which cuts the corn, ties it in a bundle, all in one machine. This is a tremendous labor saver. If you can imagine going through the cornfield and cutting it off with a handheld sickle. That's why people could eat 3 square meals a day and dessert, not get fat. This machine was originally intended to be pulled by horses, but in the late 30s and 40s, people started using tractors. And a lot of them weren't built for the speed that a tractor could drive. They were meant to be pulled slowly. This particular machine, if you go too fast, doesn't want to tie. This corn is rather green. Typically would have been bound a few weeks later, but because of the date of the threshery, it's being harvested in a fairly green stage. This would have been too wet to put in a silo. This is actually a stationary hay baler, also used to bale straw. This is a very primitive machine that was fed by hand and used to compress loose hay or loose straw into bales that were tied with wire to make them easier to handle. Typically, this was done for hay that was sold to the market and either shipped out by ship or by railroad from Sturgeon Bay. The stationary hay press is being powered by an International 816, one of the first successful tractors. That's called the plunger. What it's doing is packing the hay very tightly in a square chamber. There's another piece that you can't see that's on an eccentric gear at the front of the machine, right behind the pulley that's turning, that has a wooden attachment that pushes the hay. So it's actually two operations. One is compressing the hay and the other is pushing the hay toward the back of the machine. And the gentleman in the middle of the bale is tying wires together to hold the bale in one piece. These bales typically weighed 150 to 170 pounds. So you had to be a real man to handle them. Many times two men were handling, one on each end with hay hooks. In practice on farms, they would actually park these machines in the haymow, and there'd be a large crew feeding the hay into the machine as it did its work. You'd probably be able to do 25 bales an hour. You'd be tired by the end of the day. Typically could bale 12 to 1,300 small square bales with a modern baler, a little more efficient. One thing I'd like to point out is how dangerous this primitive machine was. A lot of people lost their fork and it went into the machine and came out in several pieces, and that would be lucky. You'll notice there's no shields on anything.